All right, guys, I'd like to welcome you to our webinar tonight, Martial Arts Mistakes That Will Get You Killed, Part 2. Just a side note, if at any point you have any questions, just be sure to raise your hand, hit the little chat button, type it in. Myself, Damian, will be happy to take the time to answer that. Could I have somebody just type in a message, let me know that this is working okay?
Other than me.
Other than Damian, yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. We're good. Let's roll, dude.
Are you seeing stuff come through, Damian? Because I'm not seeing anything on my end.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right, so the very first thing that we want to talk about tonight is we want to talk about sparring and why sparring isn't needed for self-defense. This is a pretty hot topic that we get. I get a lot of martial artists, a lot of instructors who say you need to have the sparring, you need to have that interaction, you need to build a tolerance, so to speak, for getting hit. Damien, we've talked a lot about this too. What are your feelings on sparring and self-defense?
Well, other than the idea of getting in front of somebody, first, sparring is designed for control and safety. So on its broadest platform, at the end of the day, you really don't want to hurt your training partner.
Mhm.
In the ring, obviously, it's controlled. There's it's not there's a mat, there's safety equipment, so it's not designed for you to kill or capture or escape. First off, secondly, you've got a time and a place against an opponent that has a specific skill set under a set of rules, so you kind of know what to expect and you know when to expect it. In the real world, that could be one, that could be 10 people, they could be armed. It's not like you're going to be in a sparring match and all of a sudden the guy's cornermen are going to jump in and start kicking the crap out of you.
Yeah.
So, there's, and then beyond all of this, beyond all of it, it's you don't feel your life is in danger. And that alone will, that unknown, that, first, you don't know that, you got to, in the ring, the guy's not trying to kill you. You don't feel like you're going to get killed, even though sometimes you may feel like that. So, what happens in sparring is that, you know what to expect. You can settle down, you can settle into it. It's a, it's a kind of even though it sometimes feels like a faster pace. I mean, there's a process to feeling your opponent out. There's a
Mhm.
process to making him move. In the street, there's none of that. None of that. It is literally, just straight ahead, find your opening and go. Sorry, excuse me, create your opening and go. It happens in a split second. It doesn't happen over the course of rounds. I compared self-defense um, and sparring to drag racing and NASCAR.
Yeah.
Yeah, they share some similarities, but NASCAR's got nothing about jockeying for position and going over an extended period of time for um, for a race. A drag race is just pedal down, go forward, get to the end result as fast as possible. And you don't train like this when you spar. You don't.
Well, that's
And
that's true. And one thing too, Damien, that you haven't touched on, but I think is important to talk about is there's no stress when you're sparring, and the body
right,
reacts in a certain way under stress. If you want to talk about that and the whole fight or flight principles.
right. You can't. First of all, you can't replicate it in training. And again, sparring, uh, no one's trying to kill you. So what happens when people you believe your life is in danger is your sympathetic nervous system kicks in, and all those subtle movements and feints, they're out the window.
Yep.
Everything gets condensed into these simple, I mean, motor skill sets. Like swinging a bat is something you can do. Um, Parrying and moving and slipping a punch, maybe not so much. And forget about whatever joint locks and holds and things like that you're going to do, other than like large joint locks. Like I would say, like it, let's just an armbar and a shoulder lock. Yeah, you can possibly get that in.
Hmm.
but beyond that, it's like it is so flash forward go, um, that you're so hyper focused that all that stuff doesn't really come into play unless, for example, you're in law enforcement, you're in security, where you see an opportunity where somebody is held up that you can come in and lock them up on one side. Absolutely. But, when your life is in danger and you're seriously, you know, needing to defend yourself, I mean, all that stuff goes out the window. And, you can barely, most people will, just black out. You can barely control your breathing long enough in order, to survive. So you
And
really got to operate within those parameters of what happens when that adrenaline hits your blood.
I think something important to talk about too is martial arts and sparring is very symmetrical. I do this, you do that, I do this, you do that. We live in an asymmetrical world. And one of the things that you always see in the schools is having like opponents, same size, same weight. I mean, what are your thoughts on
Right.
that?
Well, that's not the real world.
Uh,
We get attacked by larger, bigger, stronger people. Period. We get attacked by people who think they have an edge or know they have an edge. They've got friends. They've got weapons. So, the reality in the confines of a friendly training area with people that I mean, it's a different experience. I mean, a sport is about building your character, that camaraderie and that family, and that's great. I love it. But self-defense isn't about that. In fact, self-defense is just the opposite, and it's a very lonely endeavor. I mean, when you're
yes.
attacked, statistics show overwhelmingly that you will be alone, by yourself, outgunned, outmanned, and you're going to have to do whatever it takes to get out of there against a larger, more aggressive, well-armed, multiple attackers.
I agree, and I think the last thing that I want to say about sparring before we move on is sparring is always designed to feel an opponent out.
Right,
Self-defense is not about feeling that opponent out. You want to do as much damage as you possibly can, as quick as possible, and get the hell out of there.
right. I mean, when you get into sparring, I want to talk about control.
Mhm.
Um, if you're point sparring, it's ridiculous. I mean, you're playing a game of tag. Even if you're, even when you're boxing, I mean, you're really only going for that knockout shot after you've opened them up a little bit. So, and in grappling, we're going for the tap. But in reality, I mean, you gotta go 100% full power, full bore, as fast as possible immediately. Immediately.
Absolutely, absolutely. So,
And
I mean, go ahead, go ahead.
you got to just, you got to train beyond the tap. You got to hit as hard as you possibly can, because that's what your body is engineered to do when you're under stress. It's not engineered for you to pull your punches control and let them tap and subtly move into a position and open somebody up. It's trained to go pedal to the metal.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, leaving the sparring, this kind of goes hand in hand. This goddamn thing with the fighting stance. You hear about it all the time, and all these martial arts training facilities are teaching the fighting stance. What do you have to say to that?
Oh, um,
Politically
if
correct.
if you know, if you're the guy, I mean, if you get a fighting stance in the street, I mean, you don't know what the hell you're doing. Um, and when you see the stupid videos on YouTube where guys are talking about, oh, street fight, it's just guys sparring in the street. I mean, if it's me, I, I'm not going to let you know that I know what the hell I'm doing. If I am working, then I'm going to know, I'm going to put forward a professional demeanor. It's different. I'm going to give you an appearance that I can control the situation, and I'm not going to get upset, but I'm not going to take any shit.
Yep.
In the street, it's different. If I'm approached, I'm going to just be like, hey, I don't have a problem. I don't want to fight. My hands are in a defensive type manner, and I think you see people kind of understand this. And then when the time comes, if you cross that line in the sand, like we talk about in Module 1, then, I'm going to do what I got to do. And that's
Yeah.
it. And I'm not going to, and you're going to know that, and this is how you should approach it. You're going to know that I knew what I was doing after you wake up. I'm like, I don't, it's stupid to sit there and, think that you're going to put your dukes up and go do this. This isn't the schoolyard. This isn't even if, it was some shitty, stupid bar fight, I'm not going to let you know I know what I'm doing. That's the last thing I want you to know.
Yeah, and I think too we got to remember that there's also the legal side. If you take
Right.
a stance where you're looking like the aggressor, guess what? Crying fucking self-defense when you're going to court, it ain't gonna hold up.
Right. Right. And that's it. I mean, again, you've got to think about this from legally, of course, and you got to incorporate this in your training. You can't just talk about it. So how you start your combinations, how you start your engagement. Okay, you got to train that.
Yep.
And you're not doing it when you train to get in a fighting stance. I mean, you're letting the world know, oh, you're trained and he knows what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you put your hands up, when you position yourself correctly, to a witness, you're gonna appear like, hey, the guy looked like he didn't want to fight.
That's right.
And the guy went at him, and all of a sudden, I don't know, the guy just the guy hit him, went after him, and he hit him. That's it. And I will say this, and this is something that we really we talk about in the training, is that if you are assaulted and you have to protect yourself, I tell everybody, I tell you in the training, complain of chest pains and call 911.
Yep.
If somebody called 911, say I have chest pains, because later when you need to defend yourself and in court, and again, when we talk about, I mean, we'll have a whole thing on self-defense and the law later, but it doesn't matter what you do or what move you do or whatever. It's going to be what's going to be perceived as excessive, and really, to the most part, was your life in danger and could the threat potentially hurt you? And when you say I'm in fear for my life, and they look back and they say, well, he did complain of chest pains and responded to a call. I mean, they're assembling paperwork and building a case, and that's how you got to approach this stuff. And again, you got to train it, and you got to put all this stuff into your training, and not just talk about it and think about it. So when we're doing this, I mean, there's specific stances we take. There's a reason why we take a step back if possible. There's a reason why we line up the way we do, and we start the way we do. And
That's
even
right.
using the open hand, even using like the edge of hand as opposed to a fist or the heel of hand. I'm not saying don't punch. I mean, again, it's not what I'm saying, but you can strike in a way that looks like, to the rest of the world, well, he didn't punch him, right? So, all he had was his hands, his palms were facing the guy in a defensive stance. And that also tells him, and when somebody thinks they can kick your ass, oh, believe me, they open themselves right up. And then one thing that I'll say, just because I kind of stumbled onto this, whenever you think you need to do, you set your distance, they cross the line. Street Fighting 101, man. Ask them a question, whatever it is. It's like, don't I know you from, Ridgewood High School? And as soon as they answer, when they answer, boom, that's when you go.
Well,
Okay.
you're dealing with the computer, right? And the object is to fuck them up as fast as you possibly can. Now,
Right.
I guess we got to hit the ultimate question here right now, and this is probably the one that's gonna upset a few people, but that's why we're here, right? At the end of the day, Damian, why do martial arts as a whole? Why do they train you to actually let your attacker win?
This is chronic in any type of self-defense class that you see, and it comes down to one simple thing. They train you to let your attacker put their hands on you and attack you first.
Hmm.
They train for you. Okay, we're going to defend against the punch. So the guy gets in front of you and he throws the punch and you block it and then you do whatever the hell it is you do. You're going to defend against a wrist grab. Okay, he grabs your wrist and you screw around with the wrist grab. I mean, it's nonsense and it's, excuse my French, it's fucking useless. Okay, if somebody grabs my wrist, I don't care. They can hold my hand all they want. I'm going to destroy you. Destroy you. And
And
I'm not going to.
I want to take that one step further. You're talking about them grabbing my wrist. Well, no, if I'm taking that fucking class, 90% of the people are handing their attacker their wrist,
Right.
physically
Well, that's
reaching
true.
out, take
Right.
it, right?
Right. Absolutely. So, and that's what happens. And they, you're getting into this mindset and beyond the technique. You're letting them into your space. You're getting comfortable with somebody getting close to you. And listen, nobody, in order for somebody to impose their will on you, they have to get next to you. And just by the mere fact that you're training to let them into your space without reacting, it's a huge problem. People are like, well, don't throw the first punch. I'm like, really? I'm like, would you let, Mike Tyson throw the first punch? Oh, no, hell no. Of course not. I don't know. You don't know who the hell you're facing,
Yep.
right? When you tell someone you don't want to fight and you take a step back and they come toward you, what the hell do you think they want?
That's right.
Shake your hand, give you a hug, give you a kiss? Are you freaking kidding me? Time to go. You either
Yep.
run or attack, and that's it. I mean, anything less is leaving yourself up for, you're going to get taken off the count, and that's, there's nothing more about that because, you know, there's people out there who are very, 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 very scary, and I get this all the time. It's like, could you, stupid, I coach, like high school sports as well, a bunch of other things. So the kids get Google and they find out who the hell you are. And I hate talking about what I do in public, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
Believe it or not, the last one, could you, stupid shit, like kick everybody's ass? I'm like, of course not. It's a freaking huge world out there.
Yep.
So, I'm like, I'll save my own skin 99% of the time. And the other 1%, oh, well, so be it. I think of worse ways to go. So,
Absolutely.
you can't get into this mindset where you're going to let people take the first physical move, take that first step, because all a good street fighter needs is that move. They need that one move. That's what they depend on you waiting for it. And to honestly think that you would be able to do some fakakta move to get out of it or block or something is really underestimating your attacker. They're smarter than that. I picture, the worst absolute nightmare, and that's it. I mean, that's all I train for. The rest, they kind of take care of itself. So, I mean, you really gotta, set yourself and, understand, how to control your space and not let anybody near you. I mean, and if they do, then, well, you got to react and you got to deal with it. But this training the weight shit has got to stop because it will get you killed.
Well, here's the kicker too. I mean, we haven't even talked about the fact that your attacker probably has a fucking weapon to boot. So.
Right. Right. And that's how, these, and that's the fun, that's the funny thing. I mean, you don't know if that's a punch, you don't know if that's a stab. I don't know, I don't know what the heck is going on.
That's right.
And you can't, I mean, you get guys that are like, oh, stare at his hands or look at his stance. Like, I don't know about you, but when I've ever been in these situations, I'm like, shit's going off, and I'm like, I'm not looking at his hands or thinking about his stance. I can tell, you can feel when you train, you can feel if somebody's going to be a problem, even
Absolutely.
if they just walk in the room. That's
Yep.
that's the absolute truth, right? So you get that. Whether what what the hell his expertise is freaking stupid. And if anybody can sit there and be like, well, the shoes he was wearing, blah blah. I'm like, shut up, right?
Yeah.
You can tell somebody's going to be a problem, but that being said, you don't know, how they're going to come at you. And, it's not like it's not like um, they're going to I don't know, how is it? Sit there and give you an opportunity to figure out how they're going to attack you. I mean, they're going to pick a way that they think will work the best. And when people are like, well, if he did that, I would do that. Well, you know what? You don't know he's going to do that.
Right.
So, you gotta break things down to position and distance, and then you've got to act in ways that, within that sympathetic nervous system where he crosses that threshold, you go. Um, and that's it, man. That's it.
Yeah. So we have time for just one more point here, one more question that always pops up. And you know what? Every time I get new instructors or students, I always get that question, that one, do I need a training partner? And I always just say to them, I mean, fuck, this is self-defense. We're training to kill. Do you really want to kill your goddamn training partner? And it doesn't always register. So let's talk about the problem and with training partners in the martial arts world.
Well, first things is that training, as you brought up, training partners feel pain. They stop. You wind up pulling your punches. You wind up reacting to it. Plus, you're dealing with a friend or another human being or someone that. So in reality, with self-defense, it's like sports and martial arts is something you do with somebody. Combative self-defense is something you do to somebody.
Yes.
So we train, and you must train to go 100% power all the time. I don't care what you do. I only care where you are. And that's, a concept that people, well, what if he moves his head? You're just fucking going at him. Going at him. I mean, you're not a robot where you're just going to be swinging at the same spot. You're going to turn and move as he goes down. I mean, there's really two people in a fight. There's the guy hitting and the guy getting hit.
Yep.
So pick which one you want to do, because you're not going to be able to, if you cover, you're dead. If you go to the ground, you got problems. All right? If, you clinch, we're still going. We're still going. So, you just, need to train in that, in that ruthless, bloodlust manner, flip the switch and go. Now, people think that, well, you need that. I'm like, you know what? Literally millions of people each year defend themselves without any training whatsoever.
Yep.
Zero. Against criminals. So imagine if you had like a little bit of the right training. Then imagine if you really trained your ass off with the right training. You'd be a freaking animal.
Yep.
So, this whole notion of that, well, what if he does this? Screw it, I don't give you. I just care where he is, and then I'm just trying to take his head off. And I'm not fighting fair. I mean, I don't want to care about this. I care about my training partner. These are usually your friends. I don't, you're gonna. How do you practice an eye gouge and smashing somebody's head off the ground? We just pretend to do it? No, you freaking grab that dummy and you smash it off the floor and you stomp the crap out of it. So, I mean, that's where, people, think that, if, it's like, well, the body moves. I'm like, listen, I go, when you go, you go. You want to get with somebody and just kind of like mess around with stuff, fine, no problem. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I mean, all you really need is something to hit and just go.
Absolutely. So we're coming up on the half an hour mark. We've covered pretty much everything that we wanted to cover for this evening. If we wanted to give a chance, if anybody out there might have a question they want to throw out before we finish in the next couple of minutes, you're welcome to type that in. Damian, is there anything that you see, or is there anything that you kind of wanted to finish this call with?
No, I just, again, I think that you really don't, I mean, you don't want to overcomplicate this stuff. At its core, It's not supposed to be complicated. It's supposed to be simple. I'm saying simple. I'm not saying easy. It's, it's a hell of a thing to, have to protect yourself. But, you got to think about what you care about most. And, that's what you got to focus on, what you're protecting, where you want to go. You don't have to, have this whole lifestyle around it. And again, like people, I got multiple black belts. I competed and I coach. I love, I still roll around. I still, do lots of stuff. But when it comes to protecting myself, I only do one thing. And the self-defense training system combatives, that's it. That's it. I don't
Yep.
need or look at anything else. I get on with my life. Check that box. So don't overcomplicate it. Just, feel what does comfortable, what feels comfortable for you, and just go through it at your own pace, but then start really tapping into that, that adrenaline and that, let that rage go. And you'll see, even in your training sessions, you're not going to be able to do hours. To go at that pace and to go through some of the drills, like to really, once you get into it, you're looking at 15 minutes, 20 minutes, even if you're in shape. And then, you're sore. You got to recover. Your hands, your arms, your feet, shit gets sore. So be patient with yourself. You're not training for a title fight. You're just training for, the fight.
That's right.
And that's
Awesome.
it.
Well, perfect. Well, if there's no questions, we can wrap up this call. Damian, if you see any questions coming through, is there anything at all?
I think I'm looking at some of them, and I think we covered them all. So I think we're good. And
awesome.
we'll have this posted, and you can still enter your comments online, on the blog and all that stuff. Thanks for taking the time, George. Very much appreciated.
Always. And I'd like to thank everybody who took the time to pop out on this call tonight. And like Damian just said, we'll have it posted. And if you have any questions at all, please reach out. Students, reach out to instructors, reach out to us on Facebook, reach out through the network. Anybody who's interested in being an instructor, reach out. We're always looking for good people who want to spread this message of real self-defense to the world.
The Self-Defense Company, world leader in close combat.